Hello everyone, this is your boy that got shouted out by Mtashed, and welcome to today's AFK Journey video. So for today's AFK Journey video, I'm going to answer or address 2 pointers, right? Number one, why I feel that Mtashed review for Florabelle is actually probably the right one, actually accurate one. And then I'm going to talk about this theorem, or rather the reason why people disagree with some pointers from some of us content creators, right? I call it the early game Cecia paradox. Okay, so I'll address these 2 pointers, and let's start by talking about why I decided to do this topic. So one fine day yesterday, somebody dropped the message in my Discord server. As you guys can see, at Zeeebo, I see that you get the big shout out by a big creator. So AFK Journey King is actually Mtashed AFK Journey channel, as you guys can see over here. So I was like, is this Mtashed guy bad mouthing me? Is he talking shit about me? So I decided to click on his video, right? I clicked on it, and then I actually sat through the whole video, listened to what he has to say. And to be really honest, I was kind of convinced by his point. And in fact, I agree with it, to be really honest with you guys. And the thing is, the weird thing is, right, when I scroll down the comment section, right, I'm not going to show it here. If you guys are interested, you guys can go to the channel and watch it, right? Shout out to Mtashed over here, although I don't think he needs it. But he's just getting a lot of heat, right? So people are talking about his Florabelle analysis, people are talking about his Genshin Pass. To be really honest, I don't really care about the Genshin Pass. I only care about the Florabelle part, okay? And the thing is, I'll say that people have this misunderstanding that there are other creators that put Florabelle is OP, and then they really believe that Florabelle is OP, right? And there are people, the reason why it resonated with me, why I felt that there was a need for me to do it, is because I actually made a tier list. I actually am a big Cecia fan, but I don't think that Cecia is a strong unit. I don't recommend my viewers to push for Cecia because I just think that she's a decent unit. But people come to my channel, comment in my comment section, this guy is bad, this guy is lousy, he doesn't know how OP Cecia is. And I get mad sometimes, right? But nowadays, I just feel that, yeah, these people are just ignorant. So let me explain why this thing happens, right? I name it the early game Cecia paradox. So this is because of a difference in perspective, right? By the way, I'm gonna move out Mtashed page. If you guys are interested to watch his videos, go and watch it. But I'll talk about Mtashed point of view later on, so we'll come back later. So when we go into my main account, right, let's talk about this from like this paradox, right? Why is it called the early game Cecia paradox? So I think the one thing that people often misunderstand AFK Journey is that AFK Journey is fundamentally a resource management game. So you get resources from the game, you get resources by progressing a little bit faster, you get resources by getting better ranks, as well as getting resources by spending money in the game, right? So the reason why I don't recommend Cecia is because Cecia by nature, yes, I think people are fundamentally convinced that Cecia is an excellent AFK challenge pusher. She pushes your AFK challenges content really fast, and she helps you to progress in the game much faster. But like I mentioned earlier, right, pushing through content faster, yes, it does give you a little bit more resources, and these are what I'll call the infinite resource, because the higher level you go, the more you get. So the faster you get to the higher level, the more infinite resource you guys will get from this AFK challenge. So it's natural for people to think that you want to push through this as fast as possible. But let me tell you this, for somebody who has reached the end game, for somebody who is really close to the end game, or for somebody who has been playing the game for a really, really long time, the speed where you get by to your AFK challenge 1125 is not exactly the most important thing that you want to look at in terms of playing the game in the long run. In fact, the more important part of your resource accumulation, or the more important area where you get the better resources, comes from the other game modes over here. So Legend Trial, everybody will get the same amount, so I'm not going to talk too much. But the other way for you to get better rewards is number one, through your battle drill, right? So if you go into a good guild, if you can do good damage, you clear through all the different stages, you're going to get like more keys, right? You can do more damage, you can hit the boss faster, and then you can claim the 500 diamonds for your guild. So you want to join a strong guild, you want to be able to perform in the battle drill, you want to be able to get as much of these keys as possible, and then exchange for all these goodies over here. So that's number one. Number two, right, the most important like player versus player game mode is actually the Dream Realm, right? This is like uber important because number one, the rewards, right? They're all your end game rewards. Your temporal essence, your tidal essence, they're used for EX weapons, super duper important. And then the Dream Fragment is used to exchange for A-level characters, which you will need to power up all your A-level characters eventually. So this resource is even more important than your AFK rewards one. And lastly, we go into Arena, right? If you go into Arena, for Arena's case, you get even more important resource because if you take a look at the rewards per se, if you can get into the, for example, I'm not gonna make everybody be a top 5, right? Let's be a top 100, for example. Right, you get arena coins on a daily basis, you get arena coin on a weekly basis, and more importantly, you get Twilight Essence, which is something that you cannot buy in the game right now, at least not yet, right? So these are rewards that you get by getting a better rank in other game modes outside of your natural progression. So yes, these rewards, if you can get there earlier, you do get more of these resources. But if you weigh out the importance of these resources to whatever I mentioned just now, honestly speaking, this will be way more important compared to your AFK challenges. So yes, why is this named the early game Cecia paradox? Because in the early game, I think a lot of people follow like multiple tier lists and multiple content creators, and when they are recommending units, I think Cecia being one of the free S level character is indeed really free to play friendly, is indeed really powerful in terms of pushing more AFK challenges. But like I mentioned multiple times, different units, right, they have different power spikes. So depending on when the unit actually gets their power spike, they can even push contents faster than Cecia. So case in point, I actually have quite a few S1 guild members who told me that, hey Zeeb, I was super happy to listen to you to not invest in Cecia because putting my resources into OD helped me push through the later patch much more easily. So why is this the case? Why do I recommend people to invest in other units outside of Cecia? Because number one, before I continue, right, let me show you something, okay? This is my Cecia, this is her at EX10. So just a little bit of backstory. She is my very first unit I pushed to EX10. She's one of my very first unit to get to Supreme Plus because her shards are very easy to get in the shop. I do agree with that. But the issue is Cecia actually got nerfed really hard from the past. I'll showcase her ultimate skill in the past, right on screen right now as you guys can see. That's the old skill. The current skill only grants the golem additional HP and defense, which makes it such a, yeah, it's tanky, but it's not as tanky as it was in the past where the golems were getting 40 to 50% damage reduction. So when I was playing the game in the earlier days, Cecia was without a doubt the best content pusher, the best arena unit, because once the golem comes out, right, it's like, how do you kill it? Because it's so tanky, and then she can keep on recycle the skill. So that's why I invested in her in the earlier days. But as they changed out her skill kit, as they buffed up all the other units, towards the late game, Cecia starts to fall off in terms of the more valuable resources game mode, such as your Dream Realm, Arena, as well as Battle Drill. So people are convincing themselves that Cecia is good because Cecia is the most heavily invested unit. But the issue is, right, this amount of resources that you put into Cecia can be put into other units as well. So what do I mean by that? If you do decide to put Cecia in your wish list, for example, let's go into your wish list. One slot is definitely reserved for Torrent, right? So if you do decide to use the other slot for Cecia, you can jolly well use this slot for Carolina, which is much stronger in terms of the DPS compartment in the late game. At the same time, people are arguing with me saying that, hey Zeeb, you know, you can actually exchange for a shard within the arena store. Yes, I agree, but this arena coin resources actually very scarce considering the fact that you actually have to spend it on the stellar crystals, and there are way better late game characters in this store compared to Cecia. So why would you want to spend your resources on Cecia, who yes does push your content faster but really falls off in the late game and becomes like a Pokemon that sits in your box and you don't use it? Like, that's just how I feel right now with Cecia. I have her at EX10, I have her at Supreme Plus, but I won't say that I regret it because she used to be OP, but she's just sitting there and doing nothing because I don't use her. If I go into my battle drill, I'll show you guys, right? So in terms of the late game portion, right, unless I forcibly squeeze Cecia into my pool, there's no way I'll be using her. I'll be using every other unit that's better. So this is what I mean by this, the early game Cecia paradox. So based on the person's experience, right, most of the content creators, as well as people who are on Cecia's side. They are just early game players trying to push through contents. They don't see the importance of all these late game contents and all these more important late game resources. Just remember this, AFK Journey is a resource management game. So whatever you pour into one unit can jolly well go into another unit who could do the role better, who could perform better in every other game mode. So why do you want to invest in Cecia, who is only useful in the content pushing side, right? If you overcommit just to push through content, once you're done with it, good job for you, you're getting the max reward. But then you can't compete with everyone else in terms of the other contents. So that's why I don't recommend free-to-play players, especially because you're not going to get more resources outside of the free one in the game, because for the whales, they can just buy the resources from a shop. But for the free-to-play players, you can't do that, right? For the light spenders, you have very limited budget. So every dollar that you spend in the game, every dollar you use to buy the different resources really matters. That's what I mean by a value spender. That's why I say I'm a value spender. And from a late gamer's perspective, right, pushing to AFK challenge is important, but the speed where you push at is not so crucial as long as you get there. What's more important is building a strong late game team so that you can focus on all the important contents that give you the more important late game resources. So how does all these actually link to Mtashed as well as Florabelle? Let me explain. So Mtashed was talking about Florabelle as a unit that doesn't perform based on her kit, right? Which is the correct way to analyze a unit, because based on what he mentioned in the video, I can't remember the exact details, but based on what he mentioned in the video over here, the first one, the truth, like people are comparing Florabelle, when people like comparing Florabelle that people increase to a very high rank, like a whales, Florabelle pushing content and then calling for Florabelle a good unit. So in terms of a late gamer's perspective, right, how do you quantify whether or not a unit is good? The unit is good if the unit can be used in multiple game modes, or if the unit actually excels at a particular game mode. So case in point, Merrily in Dream Realm, you cannot run in the top ranks without Merrily because she's that important, right? But in every other game mode, Merrily is like questionable, not so good. But in Arena, you don't see people running Merrily. In Battle Drill, you can, but it's not a must. But in Dream Realm, it's a must, right? So that's what we mean by a meta unit. So for Florabelle's case, for Cecia's case, because I group them together, because I'll say Florabelle and Cecia, they are very, very similar. They both summon units, they both have CC, they both want to do damage. So I put them together, and then if you talk about in terms of whether or not Florabelle push contents really fast, definitely, right? She functions very similar to Cecia. So she's gonna get the same strength as Cecia. She's able to push contents really fast. Is she a free-to-play friendly unit? Not really. Why? Because she's a rate-up unit. She's a rate-up unit. It costs more to actually get her. If you're free-to-play, if you're spending 3,000 gems to just get what 10 summons? Why not just spend it on all hero? It's 2,700. Every 1,000 summon you do on this one, you can do 100 more here. Can you see the simple math? Like, why are you torturing yourself? Like, that's the point. Like, people are saying, oh, free-to-play players should go for Florabelle, free-to-play players should go for Vala. Dude, the cost doesn't add up. The math doesn't add up. So this is something which I need to point out, right? And the reason why I say that Mtashed is correct is because when he talked about Florabelle, he didn't talk about Florabelle showing people that, you know, Florabelle maxed out is really, really OP, you know, or showing Florabelle's damage, you know, like legend plus compared to Cecia, who is what, legend. So what, Florabelle doing a lot more damage? No, when you compare a unit, you need to compare a unit in terms of their unit quality being the same, right? Having their EX weapon at the same. So that's where you can see, this unit is doing more damage. This unit is hitting more, or this unit is tanking more. So that's where you can do a comparison, a fair comparison between the units. So that's what I respect, and I really agree with his point. Like, I really think that he's actually right, because he's, to be really honest with you guys, right, like if you take a look at the timing where he released the Fuse Mare video, it actually came out even before my video because I was asleep, right? So his video came out before, and he was able to sort of get a grasp that this unit is actually not so good. And honestly speaking, on first glance, this unit is indeed not very good. And even after a few play testing in the past 2-3 days, I personally still feel that Florabelle is, I'll say, not very good. Not because she's a bad unit, more like, if you invest in her, what do you do with her? Like, it's like a Cecia kind of thing. Like, yeah, maybe you run her in Arena, but why Florabelle? Why not other better units? Basically it's the exact same reasoning as my early game Cecia paradox. Like, why are you going for Cecia just because she's pushing contents faster? but they are better units for all the other game modes in the later part of the game. So this is something which I felt that I need to say, because I get fired a lot for this Cecia shit, and I don't hate Cecia. In fact, she's one of my favorite units even till this day based on design and how good she is. But as somebody who has been playing the game for a really long time, and somebody who really wants the best for people that play the game, I don't recommend people to overly invest in her, because this is where she will be. This is where she is for the past 2 or 3 months. So if you put all your resources into her, it's going to be here, and all your resources will be in here. And Florabelle's case, I'll say, is pretty similar. Personally, I feel that Florabelle is actually slightly stronger. Okay? Is she a good unit? Let me just phrase it properly so people don't take my word out of context. I feel that she's a good standalone unit, but if you put her in comparison to some of the very meta units, in terms of team building, in terms of versatility in the game mode, in terms of being overpowered in specific game mode, I think Florabelle is just a meh unit. So that's why I agree with Mtashed on that. Not because he's agreeing with me, but rather from a more logical point of view. This is what I mean by the Cecia paradox. You cannot judge a unit just based on how fast the unit push through contents, but rather whether or not the unit is useful in multiple contents, and whether or not the unit is a must for different contents. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully this video is simple enough for you guys to understand. If you guys still don't get it, I guess my IQ is not low enough. Thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!